Welcome to the Media Pro Show, the show that gives you quick, simple tips to grow your business by serving as an expert in the media. Learn how to get all the TV, radio, podcasts, magazine, newspaper, and online publication interviews and media appearances that you want, and learn how to be great in those media appearances. I'm Dr. David Geier, orthopedic surgeon, sports medicine specialist, and media health and wellness expert. Way back in episode 16 of this show, I talked about the one goal that you should have in every single media interaction. Whether it's an email, every phone call, every conversation before or after an interview, every thank you email after an interview, with every reporter, with every journalist, writer, every show host or show producer, everyone, every time, your goal should be to help them do their job and to make their work easier. Very often when you do interviews, especially when somebody reaches out to you, somebody in the media reaches out to you, it comes about fairly quickly. They may have a fairly tight deadline and you need to be able to respond on a moment's notice. Just yesterday, I got an email from a TV morning news show host who I've worked with for a long time. Over the last 10 years or so, I've probably done 20 interviews or segments for her, maybe more than that. She's not here in Charleston, South Carolina. She's in Pennsylvania, but she always reaches out to me when it's a health topic that she could use for a segment. And it's great. We've developed this relationship over time. Sometimes we'll do, because it's remote, we'll do a Zoom interview, or I'll just record a quick video giving one or two sound bites on whatever the topic is. Then she inserts either parts of that interview or the sound bite in the video I sent her into a segment that she creates, and she puts it on the news that night, or she runs it on the show the next morning. So in this case, just yesterday, she asks about a particular topic. It was changing guidelines for testing for type 2 diabetes. And she sent me an article about it and asked if it was a topic that I felt comfortable discussing and would I be willing to do that in a segment for her show. And of course I did it. It's just something I always do. In fact, I did it right before I started recording this show. It took me, maybe 5 minutes to kind of set up and then 5 minutes to do it and send it. Very, very quick. Recording it, editing the video, sending it out. Just very quick. Didn't take me any time at all. But what that does is, and I had done this in the past and that's where we are now, it's this win-win relationship. She gets the ease of getting an expert to give a quote or several quotes for a segment is very easy. She's not having to go out and find somebody. All right, who am I going to ask that can talk about diabetes? And then setting up a time to do it. And you don't know if that person's any good, so maybe that interview won't give you the quote you need. Then you have to get somebody else. She didn't have to do any of that. She basically, one email, then 10 minutes of work on my time. And all she really had to do was send a 1-minute email, and there it goes. And then I get an interview that gives me media exposure. And this isn't just her. Just if you go to my media coverage page, there's one that sort of lists all the big sort of national and large publications, newspaper, magazines, online, whether it's a reporter from the Today Show and it's multiple magazines that I do, health and fitness stories, Washington Post, I have this relationship, and I've had it with a number over the years, radio shows especially, where they reach out to me over and over again, but they're always on a quick deadline. One of the radio show hosts that I do interviews on, he's in North Carolina. He almost always will say, hey, can you come on this afternoon to talk about whatever the famous athlete is that's dealing with some injury? And I love his show, and he's always helpful, and I always agree to do that. I may say, hey, can I do it in the 4 o'clock segment, not the 3 o'clock, or can I do it in the 5 and not the 4? But he always works with me because he knows that I'll come on later that day whenever possible. I have a radio show producer that almost every time he emails me like 7 o'clock at night for the next morning. And that's usually some big health topic that's in the news right now. That's a news show, and that's in New Orleans. And I do that very quickly. Again, those magazine and newspaper and online publication writers, their deadline is usually the next day or maybe 48 hours later, and I always try to do that. The more that people in the media can trust that you'll get back to them, respond to their email, talk to them for background information, or yes, do their interview, the more they'll reach out to you in the future. those TV and radio show interviews at most take 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes a lot less than that. If you do an interview for a magazine or a newspaper or online publication, 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes tops. And those, you can pick the time. Just don't spend that much time responding. Do it as quickly as you can. The more helpful you can be, the more responsive you can be with everyone in the media, the more they're going to reach out, the more they're going to help you get more customers, clients, and patients through those interviews. One of the things I do with the clients I work with one-on-one is that you and I develop a system for getting media interviews, which includes developing a database of reporters and journalists and writers for print publications, for podcast hosts, for radio and TV show hosts, radio and TV show producers who could use somebody like you so that you start helping them on a regular basis. Then yes, they reach out to you, do interviews with you over and over again to help you grow your business or your practice. As always, though, both what I'm saying in this episode and all the episodes of this podcast, in my website, the Media Pros Coaching website, and in my actual coaching, this is not specific advice. If you have specific medical, legal, financial, or other concerns, talk to a specialist in that area. But if you want to learn how to get more interviews, how to be better in those interviews so you get asked back over and over again to hopefully get more customers, clients, and patients, I can help you become a media pro. Go to MediaProsCoaching.com. At the very top of the page, you'll see a button where you can sign up for a free 30-minute strategy session with me where we talk about your business or your practice and what you're trying to achieve, if it's just growing it or you need exposure for some other reason. And then we'll outline just a few simple strategies that you can implement right away to start getting media interviews and hopefully grow your business and practice. And while you're on the Media Pros Coaching website, get my free copy, or in your case, your free copy of the Media Pros interview checklist. These are simple things, and some of the things it talks about are ways to start establishing that trust so that you get more and more interviews. But it's 20 or 30 bullet point reminders. Doesn't matter if it's TV, radio, podcast, magazine, newspaper, online, doesn't matter. Things that you should remember to do every single time so that you're great in that interview and you get asked back over and over again. The more you do media interviews, the better you're going to get at them. You're going to get really good. So not only are you getting more exposure, but then you're getting better at them so that you get better and better media coverage at higher and higher levels and more exposure. So always remember the words of the really, really famous, legendary comedian Steve Martin. Whenever anybody asked him how they could get into stand-up comedy, because he started in stand-up comedy before TV and movies, when people would ask, how can I do this? How can I be on stage as a comedian? He would always say one thing: be so good they can't ignore you.